As an RV inspector, many clients will use reviews online to decide if they're going to even give you a call, much less hire you. There's two parts to getting good reviews online. One is avoiding bad reviews. The other part is cultivating good reviews. So first, let's talk about 9 different tips for avoiding bad reviews online. Tip number 1, you need to be on time. Being late will annoy your clients. If you run into some situation and you're going to be late, the best you can do is communicate with them why you've been delayed and what the new expected time of arrival is. My next tip is related to this. Don't just cancel on people or no show. Getting hung up on another job is not an excuse for failing to communicate to your client when you're going to be there. And this leads me to my third tip, which is you need to be smart in how you schedule. Many studies have shown that humans are just very bad at estimating how long things are going to take. And by bad, I mean we're ultra optimistic. Whatever your gut tells you, you need to add like 50% of time onto that in order to give yourself an adequate buffer for things to go wrong or not as planned. My fourth tip is you really need to be professional in all your communications with clients. I would like to think this is just obvious, but I've literally had clients tell me that other RV inspectors have cussed them out on the phone or been annoyed because they're like, didn't you know I was out of state for these months? My fifth tip is to not ghost people that are trying to hire you. If they're a client that you don't want to work for, then you should clearly communicate that you're not going to do the inspection for them. And there's some legitimate reasons to not take on some clients. And that leads me to my sixth tip, which is you need to know what jobs to say no to. Some clients come walking in with a lot of red flags. The reason any client becomes unhappy is when their expectations are not met. Now, the problem clients are the ones who have unrealistic expectations. One of my inspectors recently had a client who sent back the contract saying, I need to make changes to this because the contract says that you're not liable for any problems with the RV. That's the kind of client who is looking for the perfect RV and is looking for someone to blame if any little thing goes wrong. You don't want to be stuck in the middle of that. The other part of this is really understanding what jobs are outside of your scope. If the client really wants you to inspect the chassis of a motorhome, I think there are some limited things that inspectors can look at. But you have to keep in mind, you are not a mechanic. You need to communicate that very clearly to the client. My seventh tip is that you should only charge when you create value. When it comes to doing business for clients, they only care about the value that you create. And they ask themselves the question, is the money I'm paying this inspector worth the value that I'm receiving in the reporting? If someone hires me as a technician to fix an air conditioner, and I show up and I work on it for 3 hours and I'm unable to fix it, and then I want to charge them for 3 billable hours, they're going to be upset because they're shelling out a lot of money and they're not getting any value. They don't have a repair or a diagnosis or anything. And this is true in inspections too. In a previous profession, you might be used to being paid per hour for your time. Clients want to know what's wrong with the RV before they buy it. The value is in the reporting. It's not in how many hours you spend looking at things. This is why I've created the rigor inspection. If you can deliver that value in less time and they still get what they need to negotiate a fair deal, then you can make more money per hour. If you're interested in learning more about the rigor inspection and how to be listed on my network, visit rigorrvinspection.com. Right now it's completely free to be listed, so you should check it out. My eighth tip is that when you make mistakes, you need to make things right. You're going to make mistakes. That's just a fact. If they're going to pay you money for value and you don't deliver on that value, you need to figure out a way to negotiate with them so that they feel like they're paying for the value that they got. One of my inspectors made a minor oversight on a window shade that didn't roll up and down correctly, and the client was very particular about everything and very upset and asked for a refund on the inspection. My inspector ended up talking to the RV dealer and negotiating that they would split the cost of getting the blind fixed half and half, and the client was satisfied enough to not go leave a negative review. On the other hand, I was vetting an inspector and looking at their 1-star reviews on Google, and the client was complaining about a life safety issue that was missed on their RV. And unfortunately, their response to the client online on Google Maps was, "We're sorry you feel that way. We're always trying to do better." Trying better next time with a different client doesn't provide any more value to the client that you made an omission in your report to. They charged a lot of money, they didn't provide value, and they got a 1-star review. And they kind of deserved it. And this leads me to my 9th and final tip. If you take on a client who is insane, let's say that they are super unreasonable and you get that review anyway, it is important for every future client that you respond to that review. While your response needs to be addressed to them and addressing their concerns, you have to keep in mind that you're putting it there for all of future clients to read. All your communications in that review need to be professional, just like all of your other communications with clients should be. Mudslinging or blaming people or just offering excuses is going to be perceived as problematic. Now that we've talked about 9 ways of avoiding bad reviews, let's talk about 4 tips for cultivating positive reviews. Tip number 1, if someone tells you that they love the work that you've done inspecting their RV, you should just ask them if they'd be willing to leave a review. Clients want to thank you. Letting the client know where they can leave that thanks online is a great way of cultivating more 5-star reviews. You can say, "If you've really had a good experience, it'd be really helpful to me if you leave a good review online." If you want more 5-star reviews on a certain platform like Yelp, you might even directly ask people if they'd be willing to go leave a Yelp review. My second tip for getting good reviews online is to add a signature at the bottom of all your emails, inviting people to leave a review and have direct links to all of the profiles. Now keep in mind, you may not actually be able to do this with some platforms like Yelp, but with Google Maps, you can certainly have a direct link to your Google Map profile where people can go there and leave a rating. My third tip would be that you can actually automate emails to solicit reviews. For example, when I do consulting jobs, my calendar booking software will send a follow-up email after the consultation, and that email can ask people like, "How was your experience? Was it 5 stars? Please leave a review. If not, let us know how we can make this better." And this leads me to my 4th and final tip is just do good work. If you do really good work, if you only charge for the value you create, and if you're honest and fair with people, you will cultivate good reviews online naturally. As my first mentor in the RV business taught me, the only 2 ways to do business is to do it right or do it over. Click here if you want more tips on running an RV inspection business, or click here if you want more technical tutorials about inspecting RVs.